Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to episode number 7 of Words Are Tough. I'm here with my co-host,
David Diokendo.
And my name is Jose Rodriguez, and we have a special episode for you tonight. We have some questions coming in from our lovely viewers.
Yes.
And we wanted to touch on a topic that is dear to both of us.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly didn't realize it was episode 7, but it's kind of fast, I think. I think it feels like we just started. I mean, 7 episodes isn't a whole lot, but it's something. It's more than 1. It's more than 0. But yeah, I did have, I'm an artist, like painter, calligraphy, writer, art teacher, and Jose, you're a musician.
Yeah, musician. You know, I do some video work with marketing and design type of stuff, like, you know, with digital media. So, you know, I kind of do some things there with the whole creativity side.
But I hate calling them fans, but I have people that follow my art career since I was like 18, 19, 20 years old. And the topic of creativity pops up, but I'm going to plug this person because they said it was okay to, but it was at Reload Chapstick on Instagram.
Shout out.
Reload Chapstick. They asked, it would be interesting to hear how you get over them humps trying to make it as an artist, what keeps you going, and what inspires you to keep going. And when you get uninspired, what makes you keep producing? So those are 4 different things, like them humps trying to make it as an artist. And I mean, I like the question because it's several points, but the weird thing about making it as an artist, unlike being a creative person, making it as an artist is pretty much up to you to determine. As in, like, if you want to make it as a doctor, just say heart surgeon, to say you want to be, I don't know, Doctor Strange or something. Like, there's an obvious path. Like, you go to school, you go to pre-med, you do your residency, I don't know if there are any doctors that listen, but you have your process. It's pretty much lined up for you. So it's easier to say, I'm this far along in my goal to be a heart surgeon or whatever. But then you make it once you start practicing your craft or your profession. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but when it comes to being an artist, like, making it is pretty much up to you based on like what your goal is.
Yeah,
you know,
I totally agree. Like, it's like, even let's say if we use the example of the doctor, right? You set up all these goals along the way, you know, getting good grades, getting your GPA, your internship, doing well there, relationships with the hospital. But then it pretty much is like, what does making it mean to you? Like, does it mean I want to be making $250K a year doing surgeries?
That'd be nice.
Is that making it? is making it like you have your own department, that you're the head of the department? You know,
right.
Like, yeah, it's pretty much, it varies person to person. So that's also, I think, one of the things that also helps the whole ecosystem of creativity within, you know, let's say like film and things like that. Like, there's people with different goals, and it drives them in different directions, you know, that create something different.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I'm going to throw the word out, self-taught artist. Even though I've been drawing and coloring and painting since I was like 5 years old, I don't consider myself a self-taught artist. I see that a lot, like online, like, oh, I'm a self-taught artist and this and that, which is such a disservice on like the inspiration that drives you. It's like saying, I'm a self-taught musician. Like, are you? Maybe you learned how to play the guitar by yourself, but when it comes to like putting a song together, I mean, you're obviously pulling from like your inspirations and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I've obviously, this is not about being a self-taught artist, but like I like to throw that out there. Like, I don't consider myself a self-taught artist, even though my mom gave me a pencil and just started drawing. Where am I getting at? Oh yeah, when it comes to making it, but when I was a kid, my goal was like, hey, I want to like sell a drawing, and I did that. Great. And then the next goal was like, hey, I want to be a part of an art show. I think by the time I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school, I was a part of an art show. And then I'm like, well, I want to sell paintings. And then making it as an artist is such a broad statement because many of my students or younger people might think I made it as an artist. But for me, I still think I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And there's definitely, and one of the things that one of my professors said in grad school, Montclair, he said, he's like, David, artists don't retire. Because I asked him, hey, are you retiring? Because he was like leaving the position. I said, so are you retiring? He's like, artists don't retire. They just die. And I'm like, Jesus. And he meant like, your jobs will definitely change. Like I won't be an art teacher forever. I might have other jobs and other hats. But like when it comes to creating artwork, that's just a thing that ends when you go. Do you ever have a hard time making art or making your desired art? Because people ask me like, how do you keep making art? And it's like, for me, it's kind of like, what do you mean? Like I don't understand what you're talking about. Like,
yeah, definitely. And for me, like with some of my musician friends that, we have bands together, for them, they're writing music on a guitar or drums, maybe multiple instruments, but it's a little different because I have to write also lyrics, so a lot of times when people want to be vocalists, sure, there's bands where like the guitarist will write the lyrics and then the singer will just kind of sing and he'll be kind of guided through. But in the situation where it's not like that, it's almost twice as hard because you'll get inspiration on the music side, but not have the words, And
so you have the melody.
Yeah, like everything. Melodies. Yeah, you could do melodies or even just like write a song on guitar that it's like a basic song where, you're writing along. And so for me, I would say like I do have tough times, especially on the lyric side. But that's something that I would say to someone who wants to be a singer or vocalist, to always write, even when you don't feel like it's really good, like
so you're not always inspired, you're not always struck by genius.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll write down something that you'll come back to and you'll be like, oh my God, like this fits perfect for this other song.
Or it's crap.
Yeah, no, but the point is you want to get the crap on paper.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
Yeah, it sets the tone, just to like keep you focused and get some things out. Sometimes you just got to get some of that crap out.
Exactly. I mean, the whole phrase about, how do you get better at jiu-jitsu is like, you just train jiu-jitsu kind of thing. Is like, well, how do you make art? Is like, well, you just sit down or I mean, whatever your craft might be, but be where you can make it and just start creating it. And usually a lot of times the first like period, it could be a day or two or three or more than that, it's just crap. It's just like a lot of just like stuff that isn't really good. But I think a lot of the times your taste surpasses your skill, and that's usually it. Like maybe I like to reference like clothing. Like sometimes like your taste in clothing is much higher than your actual clothing that you wear.
Yeah.
Like my taste in clothing is way higher, but like I'm mostly just wearing a black shirt and jeans every day. Even though I love wearing suits, like I think I love wearing tailored suits, but sadly I only have like two. I can't wear the same two tailored suits every day.
Like inside your mind, you're a Zoolander.
Yeah.
But, like.
Yeah. Or you're actually Zoolander, but in your head you think you're like Cristiano Ronaldo or something like that. Yeah. But that's common, and that's a good thing because everyone's taste is more than what they produce, which is not a bad thing. And a lot of people, aspiring artists, they're not okay being bad. And I remember I picked up archery about a year ago, and it took me about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months before I felt like I wasn't bad anymore. Not that I was good, I just didn't feel like I sucked.
Gotcha, yeah,
and it's like it takes a while before, and it doesn't feel good sucking. It doesn't feel good not being good at something. You're still doing it, and then like people tell you like you're still doing that, and you're like yeah. And I don't know if it's worse as a musician, but because when I make art, I can just like toss it away and hide it. But when it comes to playing music, like people can hear it.
Yeah. There's the thing though. There's a lot of music that goes unheard,
Right.
and some of the times that's like the best stuff you make. Like with some friends that you're close with, an album that it just doesn't make it there because it's just not that specific group of people that are meant to put the extra work in after you record and write an album to put it out to be in the band. You know what I mean? It's just not for some people. But some of that music is the best because those people actually cared the most about it, and
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's tough too because like you'll encounter a lot of people, like you said, someone will say, "Oh, you're still doing that," or something like that. Like you'll encounter, like I'll see people that I played a show with 10 years ago and they were in a band, and you kind of knew there's different people. There's people who like make music because like I wake up and I hear music, you know what I mean? And then there's people who like the lifestyle, want the friendships, and it's more like fun for them, which is
The social aspect.
To each their own, and they're all great to be a part of. But then some of the people, like the outlook as they grow older, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm just like much more mature now, and I don't, this and that." Almost like downplaying it because they stopped making music. Like it was
like
like
they want to dismiss it.
Yeah, like I'm not a little kid anymore, So
not that they just gave up.
Exactly. And so it's funny to hear those outlooks, and I try not to even like give it any light or whatever. Sometimes people try to like get a rise out of you, like maybe other people who...
like that was a phase in my life. Yeah. I remember those days.
Yeah. And
I was such a silly person.
So yeah, it just it shows you where people were coming from when they were making their art, you know what I mean? Like their intentions behind it. And I think that's really cool too, because some of the people you create with, you keep a bond with, you see that they're like, it's just because that's what they do. Yeah.
There is this quote by a jiu-jitsu guy. He's like one of the first like black belts in the United States. I forgot his name, but he said it's not who's best, it's who's left. And I remember when I was an undergrad at Rutgers, it was like 20 or so. When I started, there was like 30 people in like my, I guess you can say, graduating class. And as like the years progressed, first, second, third, fourth, I think I finished around 4.5 years. By the time I got to like my senior show, there was like 8 people out of those 30.
Wow.
And I'm the only one, from my memory, the only one to actually go to grad school from those 8 people. So out of like... So then it was one of those things like, okay, but I'm obviously like I come from more an academic art background. And do you have any, like, I guess you can say, schooling in music?
I did. Well, you know what? It's funny because I've always been into music. And the reason why I actually got fast-tracked into being in bands and things like that is because I did take music in school, like, more than the average person. Like, everyone takes music.
Yeah, you take the bare minimum, like the required two classes when you're a freshman and sophomore.
But I also did band. So
Okay.
I was one of those guys who was like, I was in the marching band, but I also played football, so I didn't have to play during the football games because I was playing football. But then, then I did the winter concerts and the spring concerts. But it really helped me out a lot because I did drums. I learned how to read music, so I did that. I did some guitar in college, but I didn't finish college. So I did want to do my bachelor's in music and art and things like that, but it just wasn't in the cards for me at the time, like finishing college. And
sorry, were you done?
Yeah. It was
okay. I heard like a little something. I'm like, oh no, I don't count them off. But that's the other thing is that I have students even to this day, or even adults to this day, that were saying, oh, do I need to go to art school? And I'm like, why? And they're like, but you went to art school. I'm like, because I wanted to go, and my sort of goals required to have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. Like my goal when I was in college, my mentor at the time told me, be a teacher. And I'm like, but I hate teaching. It's like, you say that, but you really are good at teaching. Go to grad school, get your MFA, be a professor, or work in academia, the like upper, like high school or above. Like, and I'm like, you're right. I really don't like little children. I like little children. I like little children like I like puppies. Like they're cute, but I don't want to keep them. I don't want to like have them in my house and poop everywhere. But like, but I tell them like my goal, my sort of trajectory when it comes to school, like art school, was because I wanted to get into teaching, and having a master's degree helps a lot if you want to be a teacher, and it's fun, and it keeps me in the loop. You can't slack off as an artist and be an art teacher. Like it kind of shows.
Yeah.
Not having your craft and like, I'm an art teacher. Oh, show me your work. I don't have any. Like, it doesn't look good on you. It doesn't look good
for sure.
But yeah, I always tell people like, okay, go to art school, but based on like what is your goal? Like if you want to get into like more professional stuff, like work for like set design and stuff like that, yeah, you might need some education of sorts. Like, but at the end of the day, it's just your portfolio. Like, they don't even care about your grades. They just care about what can you create. And that's the cool thing about art. I guess the visual arts, even I guess you can say music as well. No one really cares what you know. They care like what can you produce. And this is why there's so many like problematic people in the creative field, because you can get really far being a complete douchebag. Because this is why there's so many like crappy directors out there. Like they're like we find out they're kind of problematic. Like Joss Whedon, like is
it's
pretty good director, but like we find out he's actually not the nicest guy, but he can make a pretty decent movie. He can
some of those fields though, it takes that kind of douchiness to get those jobs done.
Yeah, it's just I mean, but when it comes to like how do I keep going, it's I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, I get legit depressed. Like I get actually pretty sad and depressed, but it's a weird cycle. It's like I never make art when I'm happy. I'm too busy being happy. Like everything's going great, and then eventually something happens, or like that cycle continues. I realize I didn't make any art for like a week or two, and then I get sad, and that sadness feeds into the art making, and then I'm just really sad the whole time. And then I make the work or whatever I had planned. Maybe a show happens, maybe I sell a few paintings, maybe I sell artwork or whatever. Then I'm happy again. I don't make anything, and then like it just kind of continues. And that's sort of my creative cycle. But yeah, I've never made anything when I was sort of in a happy, stable place.
Yeah, I mean,
not to sound like the stereotypical like depressed artist person.
That's funny because for me it's like kind of the opposite, but
really?
At the same time, it's like kind of the same. So like, I don't really get some of that like really like sad, like depressive type of moments. I'm usually always like up here, even in the bad times.
Your cruising is like up.
You're
going 50.
Yeah, and even during the bad times, I kind of keep it there. I guess for my own defense
Sanity.
Mechanism types of things that I set up. But the music I write is never happy.
Okay.
Because I've played piano for years. Kind of
like The Weeknd.
No, darker than that. It's like I can't I could easily sit down at a piano and write like the saddest shit.
People just think that, are you okay? Like, I'm fine. I'm great.
And I'm like, I'm not sad at all. I'm okay. But I don't know. I just have that in me. I guess from just being up there, I just am attracted to like dark ambient music and really sad sounding chords and minors.
You might like this guy named Balam Makab.
Uh-huh.
I might share it with you, but it's one of my students that graduated like a year or two ago told me about him. I'm like, I really like it. And it's the album that I'll share with you, he made like when he was in college. I think that was like 10 years ago, but it's pretty interesting ambient, moody music, I think. But like it's impressive, like musicians like Prince, where I actually wasn't really a fan of Prince's music until I found out who it was. This is a complete opposite of like you like an artist's music and then you find out who they are and then you don't like it anymore. Yeah. It's the opposite, because I knew of Prince and his music, and I was like, okay, yeah, I know who Prince is and I get it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Very short, androgynous, good looking, handsome, beautiful man. And then I find out that like at like 17 he like learned to play like 12 different like instruments and recorded everything by himself, and then like when he had to perform live, he literally had to teach every person like their parts.
Yeah.
And he had to sing, and this is like before CDs, so he had to like record it on like, I don't know what you used back then to record things.
Yeah, they had like the 8-track.
Yeah.
Type
So I'm like,
mixer.
just on that alone, I was like, I like his music. I don't even know. I don't care what it is. I like it. You know. But like, is that process because it seems like music is way more collaborative than like painting and visual arts and drawing.
Yeah.
Seems like.
And that also adds a dimension to it, because there's a lot of bands too where it's like 5 people, but let's say it's like the vocalist and the songwriter, or like the vocalist, the songwriter, and the drummer mainly responsible for the core, and then people just like, you know, flavor it up on their ends.
Flavor it up.
But yeah, but
I'm gonna use that. Mr. Kennedy, what should I put? Just flavor this up. I don't know. I like that. Flavor it up.
Yeah, and like then you have people like Tame Impala, you know, like that project. He writes everything pretty much, and you kind of just build yourself up into that Prince level, you know, and then people just get behind you, you know. So it is a little, it's tough to deal with. The less cooks in the kitchen, the better.
I agree.
You know, yeah, and then that's when you get something really special. Like you get something like, let's say, I would say like, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, when all of them are really putting their influences in. You know, Flea and Anthony Kiedis' voice is like so different, and then you have the drummer who was amazing. That's when you get something really special, but it's hard to come by.
Didn't Flea go to Harvard?
I think, yeah, he's
didn't he get like a pretty legit degree in Harvard or something that?
I think after touring and stuff, like schools invited him in, like, you know, honorary, and he had time and money to do it.
And that's something, because that takes humility. Imagine like performing for like a year, being on SNL, being on like so many different platforms, and you're like, for the most part, a celebrity, and at least in the music scene, and being humble enough to be like, I don't know shit, I'm gonna go to school, and not just any school, like Harvard. I think it's Harvard, and like learn. I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's definitely a person that really wants to, hey, I don't have everything together, I can still go and learn more things.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's good to have that quality.
I think I indirectly answer one of the questions. Like, just keep learning. And you know, it's, and one thing I see a lot, and especially on social media, which always I guess you can say triggers me, is once you put something out on social media, like I mentioned our last podcast about like a comment I put out. I mean, my gut reaction is like, I don't like people not liking my comment, because I like being liked. Who doesn't like being liked? Yeah. But at the same time, you need to acknowledge, once you put something out there, it doesn't really matter like how much effort you put into it or what your intent was. Like, some people are just not gonna like it. Yeah. And that's okay, and that's just not your audience. And okay, that's just not your audience. And it's actually also good to know who your audience is. Like, you know, are you making cartoons for kids, or are you making like moody, dark music for, I don't know. Well, I don't know what your audience is, but
I'm selfish. I just do it for myself.
People that like, or for yourself, and that's fine too. But it's also, just know that when you put something out in the world, aka social media, you're gonna be shit on, and that's gonna happen. Like, I'm sure this video might get some dislikes, which is completely fine. But it's that willingness to look kind of dumb or silly, or like, hey, I'm working on this, what do you guys think? And I've been a part of a lot of like online forums and groups and whatnot. And then, you know, people would post a picture or painting or something, and they would say, hey, what do you guys think? And I'm like the critical guy that takes their questions seriously. And I'm like, well, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. And, you know, this arm is way too short, and the foreshortening is just really bad. And you need to start learning 2-point or 3-point perspective. Like, here are a few sources. And everyone's like, you're a jerk. You're an asshole. I'm like, I'm not. They asked for criticism. I'm like, oh, wait, they don't actually want criticism. They want people to say, congratulations, you're doing such a great job. If that's the case, then I guess there's forms for that. But then don't say, hey, what do you guys think? Like, I don't know. But
they wanted maybe to shine on the good things that you like.
Yeah. But for me, being an academic and my personal opinion, I've never gotten better at calligraphy or painting or sculpture being praised, like, ever. I've never, like, the critiques that help me the most is like, this is an extreme, but the critiques that help me the most, especially in grad school, are the ones where, like, I go to my studio and I cry, and it's hurtful and painful, but then I look at my notes and I read it a day or two later. I'm like, actually, this is all legitimate advice, and the reason why I hurt is because it's like, oh, but I tried my best. But you can always make improvements. Once you start realizing there's always room for improvement, you're never really attached to, like, what you're creating. You're just okay with, like, this is just a piece in, like, the puzzle, or the piece, getting closer to, like, whatever my goal is at the time, but I'm not saying it's okay, go find people to just crap on your work. I'm not saying that. Some people are just jerks, but find the constructive criticism, but also know that not everyone's going to like what you make. And sometimes there's some things that you just make for yourself that it wasn't even intended for an audience. But just fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll put one of those at the end of this episode. We haven't talked about it. One of the piano tracks.
Oh, okay. We should do that. I forgot about that. So
people can get sad at the end.
I mean, there's no copyright because you made it.
Yeah.
You can't copyright yourself.
Yep. But something you touched on before about like something I told my nephew, once I learned that he was getting serious playing guitar, I told him right away, I'm like, oh, there's this awesome site I just learned about where you can do lessons. And I know even like some ways that people take it, which I hope he didn't take it that way, but it's not like, hey, you suck, so just take some lessons. But it's just like what you do as a artist, you know what I mean? Like, you get stuck, you hit plateaus. What do? You learn the G chord all the way up the neck, and you learn how people use it when you're trying to play like funk, things like that, different fingerings, and then from there, you doing that little lesson, you're going to write something new, and you're not even going to realize you did it, and then next thing you know, you're off and running, So
yeah.
It's more of like, just like, I feel like, I don't paint, so I make the equivalent, like, like learning how to do different types of strokes and,
Color
techniques,
what colors mixed with what colors that cause what to your eye.
Yeah, what you said.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is that it's similar to that, but like color theory, you literally start learning color theory when you're in kindergarten. Like, this is red and this is blue. You can learn color theory up through college. You just go more and more advanced, and then you go into like tertiary colors and analogous colors and all that. And which is good and bad, because I mean, I always, when I teach like things, let's stick to colors. When I teach colors, I'm never like, when you guys become painters, they just kind of roll their eyes like, I'm never going to become a painter. I'm like, okay, fine. You like to match, right? You like to like match your clothes with like your shoes and stuff like that. I kind of apply to like real life things. Like, hey, do you not want to get stopped by a cop when you're driving like 70 down Route 80? They're like, yeah, like, don't buy a red car. Like, why? Because red cars, that's the first thing that we like, actually universally, like throughout the world, red is the first color that you can identify. And then it's light and dark, and then it's usually like white and black. It's usually red, white, and black, or the other way around. It's like white, black, and red, and then like blues and greens, and eventually. But usually the first color that we can identify the easiest is red. So like once you start applying, hey, this is color theory, apply it to real life. Like, don't wear like this kind of yellow as a shirt, because it's just like an eyesore, like wearing this really bright yellow. But like for like, if you are trying to design a jersey for a basketball team, yeah, using complementary colors like yellow and purple, like the Lakers, makes sense because you want it to pop. But you don't want to be that guy wearing a Lakers jersey at a party. You're just going to stick out like a sore thumb. You're that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
This is why I never wear jerseys, is because it's not meant to be worn like that. It's meant to be seen like on a TV or at like 100 yards away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where am I going? But yeah, when it comes to teaching, at least for me, like, you need to sort of, for those people that don't want to get into the arts, you kind of need to sort of tweak it so it applies to their like everyday life, so it kind of matters to them, so they can like apply it to their life like hey, if you don't want to care about matching, just wear neutral colors all day, like gray and black and browns. You're gonna match all the time, like, which is what you're wearing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, this was my my car buying outfit.
It works.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that, like, you can be like a really smart, or I guess you can say advanced in your field, like Kanye West. Like when Kanye went, obviously a skilled rapper and producer and all that. Like, even though he's very creative, him jumping to fashion was like, what are you doing? Even though obviously it was creative and he actually lost a lot of money in the beginning, but for years he had a lot of pushback when it comes to getting into the fashion industry and all that. When he said, I'm a genius, remember that one interview he said?
Yeah.
I'm a genius. Yeah. I can't say it like he says it. Did you agree with him? Because I have my thoughts on that.
I as far as on the music side, I would consider him a genius, but I have just my reservations on people saying that about themselves, you know.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't hate the guy for it. I'm actually a big fan of Kanye, but
me too.
Yeah,
that's why I love criticizing. I only criticize what I love, by the way.
Yeah, and but yeah, that's how I felt when I heard that. I was like, he kind of is.
Yeah. But you don't really say that, but he has a point.
Yeah.
But
what did you think?
As a musician, I think he's very creative and skilled and very advanced in that field. When it comes to his library, like he has perfected the creative process of copy, transform, combine, which is like to narrow down sampling.
Yeah, he does sample. Yeah,
in the I guess film and video and the process is called copy, transform, combine. I actually made a video on it on my YouTube page of copy, transform, combine, and it's not my original idea. It's from this guy. He made a really cool I don't say Vimeo video on that process, but in film. But I think when it comes for going back to Kanye West, I think he has perfected that way of producing music. But in my opinion, I don't think there's such thing as a genius in the context in the creative field. And what I mean by that is, before the Renaissance, like, back in the Greeks and Romans and all that, you weren't a genius, you had a genius. As in, a genius wasn't necessarily something that you were, it's something that was sort of like lent to you, or like it was like a being deity that kind of came to you when you were available. And we call it flow nowadays. Oh, you're in the flow, right? Ever just start playing chords and you just like, oh wait, that just kind of came out of nowhere. But the Greeks and Romans believe in that, like, hey, when your work was great, you couldn't take full credit. You just have a really good genius that helps you along. Or if it sucked, you're like, well, it's not really your fault because your genius kind of sucks. Sorry, you gotta work on your genius. But like right when the Renaissance came about, it kind of switched from having a genius to being a genius. Like, you were like the vessel, the avatar of like what genius comes from. Like, then you are it. It's like saying, hey, you're smart, or no, that's really bad. I was like, you're smart, or yeah, I am smart, or I was like, I have smart. But anyway, so when it comes to that, I don't think necessarily Kanye West is like a genius. I just think he's really good at tapping into that part of his brain, or that part where he can easily access like really good, really cool sounding songs, But once you start saying I am this, then it's like, ugh.
Yeah,
it sounds kind of,
Yeah, it's for me with his music, I do know about what you were talking about, the copy transform. The one about film, was it based on Quentin Tarantino, possibly.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's really
Yeah.
he's like the Kanye of film.
Or vice versa. But like, and that's the thing is like, you need to lean into your inspirations and not think like you need to be original all the time. And knowing, and I mean, honestly, if you were to sort of narrow it down, there's nothing truly that original or original at all. If you want to, I mean, maybe the most original people were like cave artists. There's this movie called The Cave of Forgotten Dreams by Werner Herzog. It's like literally a cave in France, in Lascaux, France, where like it was sort of sealed shut through a mudslide, and it preserved all the art on the walls in the cave. I mean, unless you're like those people that made that, then maybe you're not original. Like they were, because they were just referencing what they saw with no internet access or books. Like they just,
or like a remote Amazonian tribe invented their own instruments. And
sure, that's definitely original. But what was my point? I don't think I have a point, but yeah, the whole genius thing. I think once you sort of embrace the fact that you're inspired by things outside of yourself, and you sort of, like that. I mean, that's how they made like certain even comic book characters. Like, that's how you have like different characters, like Miles Morales, like the other Spider-Man, was like the writer the guy that made Miles Morales. I think he had like 2 adopted children that were black or Hispanic. Then he realized, wait, like, my kids don't have like this sort of representative, like they don't have anyone that looks like them, in the comics. So he made a character based off of a pre-existing character. Some people have they criticize that, like, be original, like, shut up, like, it works. So just, why not do that? Like, where you're having the Black Captain America, or something like that,
or like how they did like the Snow White, like type of, like people were saying, like, when they switch up the roles, like you were saying. I mean, I understand, like, hey, that's just lazy writing. I mean, then all of Disney's animations from Snow White till now isn't original then, because everything that they made wasn't. When was the last time Disney actually wrote an original like screenplay? Like, yeah.
But then you, like from Lion King to Snow White to Little Mermaid to the Jungle Book, all of that was just what happens when things are no longer copywritten? Free domain.
Eminent domain? No, that's
free
land.
Domain.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's free to
like
use.
The Beatles album.
You can use it whenever you want, pretty much.
Yep.
But then Disney takes that, like the Jungle Book, and says, now that's ours. Now you can't make your own Jungle Book movie. And if you do, you need to pay us royalties. A lot of money. Just so messed up. Disney's so messed up, but they make really good content. Or they produce really good content.
Yeah.
But it's the whole creativity. Actually, I don't think we even answered any of this, but I think we did. Or when you get uninspired, what makes you keep producing? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's a good one to like really set the tone for the end of the year. What I love about being uninspired is just looking at new artists, people that's really what I look at, and just other artists inspire me, and that's how I've always been with music, even artwork. Even though I don't do like painting or drawing, like artwork in itself does inspire me. So that's pretty much my style.
I mean, when you're uninspired, the best thing to do is to go do things. And I mean, that's like, I love going to the gym or doing jujitsu or doing archery or, reading a comic book or listen to a podcast. But to just, when you're uninspired, you just need to be available to other things. And, we don't live in a vacuum. So it's okay to pull from other things. And I always tell students, especially like younger, teenagers, I just tell them copy. Like, you're completely allowed to copy. Don't claim any of it's yours. Don't make Mickey Mouse and say you made Mickey Mouse. That's just stealing.
Yeah.
But, you know, literally copy characters that you like. Copy comic books. Just, you know, find things that you like and copy it. Or if you're into music, you know, find a song that you like and try to play it. You know, learn the chords or learn the lyrics and whatnot, you know. And then through the copying, through that momentum, you'll start creating. You're creating something. It isn't. I don't like saying the word original. It's not original, but you're creating something, and that momentum will lead you to no longer being uninspired. You start creating something, and if you don't make anything that's like yours that you can call your own, that's okay. You learn a new skill. You learn how to play this song or paint this painting or something like that. But it's like a really topic that's very broad, because when you say creativity or art, it's such a broad thing, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, and also once you, I guess you can say, mastered something, like, change it up, you know, try something else, or ask someone, hey, can you look at this, and, you know, be nice, but be, you know, honest.
Yeah. And
know,
I think there's also like two separate levels to it. They get confused. Like, you could be inspired still, but unproductive in the time.
Correct.
Like, you could be busy in your life, or, you know, something like that. And it's cool, like, you know, even if you're at an unproductive stage and let's say a month that you really are busy, to stay inspired, because like we were talking about, a couple of my friends are big believers, like, even with music, like, if you take 6 months off and you have to go, you know, take care of family or something, when you get back to the instrument, all the inspiration that you've gotten along the way kind of like stores in you, and you kind of,
that's one method.
Yeah, you kind of like just write this new music the next time, you know, like.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, yeah, like, you know, when you're uninspired, like I said, I look at other artists, but even when you're unproductive, it's cool to just keep trying to stay inspired, you know? So.
Yeah. And again, this is in the context of just like being an artist. This is not about like making money, because
Yeah.
this is making money is a whole different topic.
Yeah, different episode.
It's a completely different episode. Like, okay, but how do you make money? Like, okay, that's a whole different like can of worms to like unravel. And that was actually my issue. We're not gonna get into it, but that was actually my sort of hump, was after grad school. It's like, okay, but how do I make money?
Yeah.
You know, and like then you become more of an entrepreneur. And I know a lot of great creative people that are like super skilled, that they can paint, they're phenomenal painters, but they don't make any money. Like, they don't have to promote themselves or network, or they don't know how to
networking is
write grants and go to residencies. And so, like, even though I go to residencies and have art shows, I like, when it comes to like being the most skilled, I'm not the most skilled painter or calligraphy writer or muralist, but I put myself out there. I think a lot of people, they kind of wait until they get it perfect, which you never will, and then they're like, okay, now I can like display or play or whatever. A lot of times the you know, realizing, okay, I'm done with this, it's not perfect, but let me put it out there and then work from it. I know a lot of people that just are too afraid to put the work out there, even though it's like phenomenal, even though it's like really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like a dozen Kanye Wests in their basement right now, or their attic, and
They had great music, but it didn't sound like Kanye West just yet.
or yeah, it didn't sound just right, so they never put it out there. Like, you know,
I have a lot of friends like that. You know, especially very prevalent in hip hop too. You know, because like, you know, a lot of like rapping and the flow and things like that, they don't feel it sounds good. Like the way their voice sounds, and they're always waiting for that next time they're gonna meet that guy at the studio with the good microphone. Next thing you know, you're sitting on 80 songs and you lose them all because your computer crashed. And
is this from experience? Yeah. It sounds like this is your
I mean, it's just very very specific, but you know, it's like that perfection that people are chasing sometimes. You know, that putting out those 80 songs could have led you to the guy with the mic, you know?
Right.
And then who cares about those 80 songs? Then you got the chance to make that album, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, it's been a nice little wild ride. I mean,
Should we mention our sponsors?
yeah, I was definitely going to do that. But before we mention our sponsors,
right.
please, you guys out there listening, if you could subscribe, leave us some comments. We'd really appreciate it. This was another, fun episode for us, and it sprouted from, some questions some of our listeners gave us, and we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Reload Chapstick, right? Shout out
Reload
again.
Chapstick at IG. I don't think they post anything though.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, and and our sponsors that like I said, keep the lights on here. Rick's Barbershop. We have Premier Rank Marketing and Worldwide Solutions. If you didn't do your taxes yet, you are in trouble, but they can still help you.
Our tax is up, I think soon.
Yeah, May 15th. It was a couple of days ago.
There you go.
Yeah, but I mean, this fun episode. Yeah. Hopefully, maybe in the future, once we get some feedback on this, we'll do another revisit on creativity.
Yeah, any questions or criticisms or anything like that, or even like advice, like if you want to get into the whole how to make money in the arts or in music, like we can go there too if you want.
Definitely. I'd love to speak about that side. But yeah, I mean, thanks so much for checking us out. My name is Jose Rodriguez.
David Diokendo.
And Words Are Tough.